So Inspirational Hangouts initially started when Sahar and I both came back from university. And we just came back with like a lot of energy. You know, when you move back home, you're just like, yes, fresh off university, I'm excited. So we had a lot of energy. We were meeting up with our friends and we were having we would be at dinners and we'd be talking about like the purpose of life and equality of the genders and whatnot. So we decided why not, hold it bi-weekly. So, each session is dedicated to a specific topic. So we started it like that. And then it was always between my house and Sahar's house.
3, 2, 1.
Is it together?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Visionary Stories podcast.
Today is a different episode. I have fellow speakers here today on the show. We have the co-founders of the Inspirational Hangouts, Hanan and Sahar. Let's hope to have a very good episode. Thank you guys for doing this with me. Thank you for coming on the show. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Can we do a clap?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Visionary Stories podcast.
You are perfect just as you are.
The one thing that'll stop you from growing is your ego.
Perfection is not attainable because if you're perfect, then you have nothing to pursue in life. Become the person you could be.
It's gonna fail. That means that won't work for you. Try another one.
There's room for improvement.
Yeah.
That's what.
Best is never
It's not okay. You just...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Visionary Stories. Welcome back to the Visionary Stories podcast.
Mental health, physical health, everything takes effort, everything takes time.
You have to work. We have to work hard every day.
That's the end game.
That's taking your arsenal and just throwing it back at you.
I'm like, it's not going to stay for permanent. Nothing's permanent. Cruise thing, just live it.
All right. So before we go deep into about your guys' story and everything about y'all, I want to address the elephant in the room. So for whoever the audience is who's listening right now, yes, I did take the beard off. It was because it got annoying after a point. And I just wanted a new look. So that's why I took the beard off. Don't get angry if you broke. Okay, so welcome to the show. Thank you for coming onto the show. It means a lot that you guys took the time and effort to be here and have this genuine conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. We're so excited.
All right. Firstly, when you grew up in Canada, at least for a few years, right?
Just for 3 years. So I was about 3 years old when I moved here to Kuwait, and then I grew up here. So Kuwait is home. But then I have family back in Canada, so it's always been just back and forth. Went there for studies and whatnot. So yeah.
And Sahar, you grew up in Kuwait, born and brought up.
Yes, I was born and raised here. Yeah. I just went abroad for university and then came back to Kuwait.
Oh, no, that's sweet. Okay, so how did you guys meet? You told me that you guys are childhood friends. So how did you guys meet and what's that story?
It's a beautiful love story. I'll tell you that. Sahar remembers it a lot better than I do. So
yeah, so our dads used to be friends. We're family friends. So when she was 3 years old and moved to Kuwait, we were the first family that went to visit them. So basically, that's when we met. As soon as she moved to Kuwait.
Yeah.
And we've been best friends since then.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did check the Inspirational Hangout. I was tagging people in the video, and that time I couldn't help but notice that there were Inspirational Hangouts throughout, in Oman and in other places also.
Yes. So initially we started Inspirational Hangout in Kuwait about 5 years ago. But then just, through talking with our friends in different countries, they also were having these elevating conversations and deep conversations in their cities and in their countries. So then that's, we all just discussed and consulted together, and we decided to start little Inspirational Hangouts around the world in those countries.
Yeah, that's nice. How was the whole process? Because starting something like this, it takes a lot of thought. Because for me personally, even the podcast, it took almost over a year of finding out how to do it and figuring out which way to what's my style and stuff. So take me through that whole process, how you came up with the whole idea of Inspirational Hangout and how it came into being reality.
So Inspirational Hangouts initially started when Sahar and I both came back from university, and we just came back with like a lot of energy. You know, when you move back home, you're just like, yes, fresh off university, I'm excited. So we had a lot of energy. We were meeting up with our friends, and we were having like, we would be at dinners and we'd be talking about like the purpose of life and the equality of the genders and whatnot. So we decided, why not, hold it bi-weekly. So, each session is dedicated to a specific topic. So we started it like that. And then it was always between my house and Sahar's house.
So you guys started initially at your houses.
Yeah, and it started very organically. We just invited our close friends. And then very slowly, with word of mouth, the group just kept growing and growing until, like 30 people would show up, and we didn't know half of them. And and it was just very interesting. And that's why we had to think of alternatives, and we had to think of holding it in public spaces, which really changed the dynamic of Inspirational Hangout. And we were able to reach out to, a larger segment of emerging professionals who liked to talk about these, societal issues. And I think we've been very lucky to have spaces that offer their space for us, and it's been a great experience.
So it's been 5 years now since you started Inspirational Hangout, yeah?
Next month, the end of May, is going to be our 5-year anniversary. So we're excited.
That's sweet. Congratulations on that, because this is not easy. So it's almost 5 years. So what is the biggest takeaway from this whole journey of Inspirational Hangouts? What is the biggest lesson that you have learned?
I think for me, one thing I've learned is and I think we all notice it nowadays, how much people want to talk. People want spaces. And, honestly, I think Kuwait really comes through with that. Kuwait has a lot of beautiful spaces that, for young adults, for adults, and for the youth to kind of come together and just be able to say how they're feeling and their opinions and learn from each other. So that's one thing I've noticed. It's just been great that so many people want to come together and have conversations.
Yeah. I think I just want to add, maybe on a more personal level, I think both Hanan and I have had to step out of our comfort zone for the growth of Inspirational Hangout, and really reach out to different organizations and collaborate with them. And we've been very honored to collaborate with organizations that focus on topics like mental health, women's rights, the rights of domestic workers. And it's been a huge learning experience for us to really learn about all these organizations working here in Kuwait for, a greater good.
All right, so I'm gonna throw in between few questions from the public. So one of my friend asked me, when you started Inspirational Hangouts, who was your actual inspiration? Was it a feeling that you had we should do something like this, or was it something specific?
I think it was our passion and our thirst to learn from each other. Because all of our friends had studied, most of us had studied in different countries. So when we all came back around the same time, we were like, how did that country change your perception of your purpose in life? How did living in that specific country change the way that you see a certain thing, equality between man and woman? So that's something that Hanan mentioned. So I think it was just really that passion to sit together and learn from each other, really.
No, I agree. And I think the way both of us were brought up, we were always, pushed and encouraged to just be individual thinkers and to find things on our own and to kind of investigate the truth of things. So again, like Sahar is saying, it was always, a deep passion within us to kind of explore different thought processes and different ideas and learn from other people. So I think, that was a big drive to kind of start Inspirational.
You mentioned how the different places changed your perception and your thought on your purpose. So this 5 years into the whole Inspirational Hangout, what do you think your actual purpose is?
Oh, that's a topic we talk about at least once a year.
Our purpose.
Do you want to go, Hanan?
Like, okay, so are we talking about in life?
Yeah, I mean, like, sort of like one of those questions that, like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, something like that. Like, at the end, like, when the dust settles, where do you see Inspirational Hangout, and what do you think it'll be?
Mm-hmm. So I think, again, you know, if you attend our discussions, like, you'll see that a lot of the times that there's like an ongoing theme throughout all of the conversations we try to have, which is at the end of the day kind of ties in with our purpose in life. So what are we doing to better the world that we are living in? So what is our individual role in every topic that we talk about? So I think that kind of clarifies what our purpose in life is. And I'm Sahar, I'm speaking for the both of us, that, you know, just, you know, what can we do as individuals to better this world? Because we're here for that. We both believe that that is our purpose in life, to be, you know, humans of this world, and, you know, treat it as that. But as for like where we see ourselves 5 to 10 years, to you, Sahar.
So if we're talking specifically about Inspirational Hangout, I think the way that we're learning, it's definitely something we are learning from, on how to collaborate with one another, now we're collaborating with different countries and learning from the experiences of different countries. So I think one thing, we envision more countries having spaces like this. So whether it's called Inspirational Hangout or not, but our vision is to really spread awareness about the importance of having these kind of deep conversations in whatever country that you are. Because we do believe that every change starts with a conversation. So having spaces like this is definitely something that would help the overall, I think, level of thought in people who attend it. But we also have a space that we've started for younger youth. It's called Inspirational Junior, so between 11 and 15 years old. So we do see that also growing into its own space, catered to the younger youth. And we do give workshops too. So we do hope that we'll also be known for like workshops on coexistence and peace and things like that.
That's really nice. Yeah, okay. So, you know, like over the years, you would have had like millions and zillions of like deep, meaningful conversations. So like, has there ever been like one particular conversation with someone that has like always stood out and somehow impacted you on like a different level altogether, and like changed your whole perspective?
That's a very, very interesting question. A very deep question.
So, I mean, I can talk about a conversation that we had in Inspirational Hangouts. That for me was very, it taught me a lot as well. So, well, honestly, there's a lot, because amazing people attend and they share amazing thoughts and opinions. But I think there was this one time where we had a discussion about bullying and the effects of bullying. And then just seeing how that conversation went, and it had a very significant result to, you know, certain people who had attended who were experiencing bullying as well. So that whole discussion and the aftermath, or the results of that conversation really, really touched my heart, because it just showed how sometimes just through having conversations, you are, you know, planting a seed of hope for certain people. And it causes them to kind of, you know, change their course of life, or, you know, act and react differently. So that whole conversation about bullying was very touching for me.
Yeah, actually, even through the podcast, like, I have impacted many people who I don't even know personally. They just DM me. They're like, it's I don't know how it's weird, but in a good way. Like, you'll enjoy that positive response that you get back.
Exactly.
Definitely. And it's really just providing that safe space for people. To talk about whatever they want to talk about, but really to open up as well. So I think, again, if I want to follow up on what Hanan was saying, whenever I talk about mental health, whether in the context of Inspirational Hangout or with an individual, it's always it's a topic that makes you connect to a person very quickly. It's a topic that makes you really know a person, even if you've just met. And I think this has always been one of the topics that always like impacts me. And I leave the conversation feeling like, wow, I just made a really deep connection with a person that I barely know. So even in Inspirational Hangout, when we talk about mental illness, people open up and they feel like it's sort of like a support group, even though that's not the purpose of Inspirational Hangout. But it's nice. It's nice that we can provide that. And if the person leaves feeling supported, then that's wonderful.
Okay, so there is...
Well, actually, just this morning, we have a friend in Turkey who said that they want to start Inspirational Hangout Turkey, which is wonderful. So we've added one to our list of networks, which is wonderful. And these things, we don't plan for it. It happens organically. So it's well, here's our space, and we have our material and everything really organized. So a lot of times people come to us saying, can we have your material on forgiveness, let's say? And we share it with them, and they try it once or twice. And then they're like, hey, we want to start Inspirational Hangout in our countries. So it's not something that we actively do. We actively look for, but it just organically happens.
Yeah. So like when you started like the Inspirational Hangouts, what was the biggest issue that you always had to like, which kept coming again and again? Because obviously there would be many issues when you initially set out for Inspirational Hangouts. So when the initial hiccup, like what were the main hiccups that you always had to deal with?
I think, when we first, moved from having it in our homes to public spaces, sometimes maybe finding a long-term public space would have been could be a challenge at times, because we do have it twice a month, and but again, like a lot of places have been amazing and very, very supportive. So it's been really nice. We've tried a lot of different public spaces. So I think that was something that a lot of planning had to go into. I don't know. I don't know. Sahar, can you think of anything else? No, I think
that was one of our biggest challenges. And like I said, one of the main things that we had to really go out of our comfort zone for it. I was just thinking of maybe another challenge is sometimes people say that this space needs to be providing Arabic discussions too. And of course for us it's a challenge. We can't really run two languages. We're both more comfortable in expressing ourselves in English. So we have reached out to a lot of people and we're like, hey, we can help you guys. We just can't be the main people running this, mainly because we can't express ourselves in Arabic. So it doesn't make sense for us to run this. So this is a challenge that we are still facing because we know that there is a need for it. And we know that there are a lot of Arabic speakers who would love to have a space like this. So wish us luck. Hopefully we could start something like that.
Yeah, I guess you will. I mean, you just got to deal with someone in Turkey. So obviously, I feel like greater things will be there down the road.
Hopefully. I think with things being more virtually, it's easy. I can contact somebody in Jordan and say, hey, can you run our Arabic discussions? Like it makes it easier.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy. Like no one even saw the whole lockdown and all of this coming. And it's actually a blessing in disguise if you look at it from a different perspective. Everyone's worried about being stuck at home, but you can do so much with it. It's just that people don't want to face the problem and look at the positive side. I guess it's an issue with almost everyone, even with me personally. I bet even with you guys, like you see a small issue and then you overthink it and you turn it into something that is completely huge and unfaceable.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we say it's okay. We lost a huge part of our previous lives. It's okay to feel down. but it's also nice to see the silver lining that we can still connect
Yes.
with people from all around the world at the same time. It's amazing that it happened during this time and age.
Yeah. All right. So there is another fan question, not a fan question, audience question.
I like fan. I like the word.
Yeah, we can go with fan.
All right. So you have this is a question. After doing hangouts in real life and now virtually, like what do you see the inspirational hangouts being after the whole COVID-19 is done?
Excellent question.
Right, and we've talked about it because I mean I really miss our face-to-face hangouts. Those are always fun and they have an energy of their own. Virtual hangouts have also been super fun because again there are people attending and becoming regulars that have not been attended, haven't attended before. So it's like a chance for us to meet new people and so that's been super fun. And I think, Sahar and I have spoken about how can we, after all of this is done, continue obviously with our face-to-face discussions, but then maybe perhaps still have, a virtual one every now and then because it's so much fun. I don't know. I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, same here. And there are a lot of youth, Kuwaiti youth who live abroad and they've loved the fact that they can attend the virtual hangout. So it's been really nice for us that we are still talking to people who were either brought up in Kuwait or are Kuwaiti but are not in Kuwait at the moment. But we're still able to connect with one another and talk about issues that are relevant to Kuwait. So it's really nice. I think it's just conversations have become, or these deeper conversations have become such a normal part of our lives. Sometimes our friends and family members make fun of us. Like when we're out, they're like, this is just an outing. It doesn't have to turn into an inspirational hangout. It's just such a... We're always like, so guys, what do you guys think about like this social issue? And they're like, can this just be dinner?
I mean, I faced that also. I always, because no one else in my school, or in the schools, all the Indian people, no one has ever done a podcast. So everyone's, it's always like they're happy, they're supporting it. At the same time, there's the indirect bashing and stuff, and I'm okay with it because to be honest, at the end of the day, it's always about having a conversation. There are not much people who actually enjoy having deep conversations, and to set out, search, find, and have a deep conversation with someone who you barely even know is something that is unreal, but at the same time possible. It's that age that you can just, this is my bedroom and I'm having a podcast just out of my bedroom.
Exactly, and it's amazing. It's like, who would have thought? It's amazing.
Yeah, that's absolutely great.
Okay, so I started my podcast and you've also started Inspirational Hangout. So what do you think basically is one of the biggest stoppers for someone who wants to start something but can't start something? Like what is that something that's always holding them back? What do you think, like in your idea, and how do you think someone should deal with it?
I think one of the first things is something you just sort of touched upon very lightly, is sometimes just indirect and very subtle bashing that you might get from people. And a lot of times it's because they don't understand it. So when we started Inspirational Hangout, a lot of people didn't understand what it really was. They're like, what? So you just get together and talk? Like, huh? And it's really like, if you have a vision and you have a passion for it, just go ahead and do it, because people who bash sometimes bash because they don't get it. And once they get it, then that's it. You've got your supporters.
And I think, again, speaking for me personally, one thing that, because if this was me doing this by myself, it probably would have been harder, and it probably wouldn't have even started, or it would have just stayed in my home with like my 5 to 6 friends. But I think, if somebody does have a passion for something, a lot of times having someone who will support you, just like to bounce ideas and to kind of, accompany you in certain situations and to kind of push you to, you can do it. You can believe in yourself. Like, don't stop. That is what's been helpful for me. Like, just having Sahar and, team of, people that we collaborate with, that's been the biggest push for me personally. Yeah.
Definitely. Because even when both of us are terrified of doing something, at least we're doing it together.
Yeah. We're always like, are we doing this? Are we really doing this? Yes. Okay.
Let's do this. I also want to say, maybe another thing is, sometimes as non-Kuwaitis, wanting to do something meaningful in Kuwait could be a bit discouraging. And I think one thing that we've learned is we also love Kuwait. Kuwait is home to so many people. So don't ever let that discourage you. We're still doing this because we're still part of this community and we want to give back to this community.
That's nice. All right. So are there any questions you would like to ask me? Is there anything specific that you would like to know about the podcast or anything?
Maybe you can tell us about your journey of what made you start the podcast. What has your favorite part of the podcast been, and what have you learned about yourself through the podcast? Is it okay if I interview you?
Okay, I've told the whole story of how the podcast began. Long story short, it was basically me challenging someone who doesn't even know I challenged them. That's how the whole podcast started. So I was just listening to something, and I told myself, you know what, you can do something better than this. Why don't you try it? So I tried it. Obviously, it was me alone. It was a solo pod, and I didn't like it because, I was insecure about myself back then. So I was like, just take some time, research, think it out. So I did it again after around 1 year with a friend of mine called Muklis. That was my episode 1. And when I finished it, the response from the audience was nice. Okay. Then came the first, first punch in the face. Not obstacle. It was a punch in the face. I got a meme video made out of that first episode.
Oh no.
Yeah. And turns out it was one of my friends, and it was a joke. And that was basically my first, and I guess the best lesson I've ever learned through the podcast. It's that someone or the other will always try to make fun of you, try to pull you down. It's not intentional. It just happens, people want to make a joke and something like this will happen. But the important part is that you should always trust in yourself. Because I feel though you can doubt yourself, and obviously a lot of other things are there that will affect you. I feel like the biggest thing is believing in yourself and knowing that as long as you try, it's worth something. When I started the first season, it was always here and there. Once it used to be just the regular video, just a small clip from the podcast. Then it used to be borders and square cut with the logo, and then the names and description changes. And so basically the first full season was about learning. And that was also another important lesson. It's if you change, don't be afraid to show it, because people change, and that's the beauty. For me, people are like waves, they keep on changing. They have high tides, they have low tides, and you should just surf along with it.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And I think, again, even for us, because initially when we started Inspirational Hangout, we knew we wanted it to be, just for having conversations about topics that are relevant to our society. So what Sahar and I do is we prepare a document with quotes and questions. So if you look at our documents 5 years ago, we had documents that were 5 to 6 to 7 pages. So we would be sitting with our friends reading these books together. And then we've learned, again, like you're saying, you need to reflect and you need to take all of these things as learnings on how you can better what it is that you're doing. So now, we've learned to keep it, 3 to 4 questions, 1 page only. We've developed house rules and all these like little things that come with discussion. So again, learning. There's so many learnings that come with these things. It's amazing.
I think this is fun. Like it's fun for you.
Yeah.
It's been fun for me. So
I was just gonna ask, besides the podcast, what are some other things that you are interested in and you spend your time doing?
Okay, so like if you check my Instagram bio, it says content creator. The K's are basically just my style. I don't, just for a difference. But basically, I create content. I recently discovered that I can speak. That's how the podcast came into play. And through this speaking, I learned kind of to edit. Recently, I did a collage for my friend. So I learned Photoshop. And throughout my life, I've been dancing. So for me,
nice.
I just like creating, as long as it's somehow impacting someone or even myself. If it makes me happy, I'm gonna do it. So that's the best part that I discovered about myself. It's that I can learn and I can create. So even I've even told my parents, they've been my biggest supporters. But I wanted to do the podcast during my whole school and exam, but then they were like, nah, don't do it, like focus more on academics. But towards the end, it was fighting and all that stuff. And the biggest takeaway that I had, like for myself, it was that I can't stop creating because it's a very huge part of my life. I have to either do write-ups or somehow I have to let out the creativity and the emotions I'm feeling. Like even recently, I thought, because like all of us were, me and a few friends of mine, we were on a call and we were just talking about like random stuff during quarantine. And so I thought to myself, hey, we could do like a web series about three friends stuck in a house. Yeah, but
exactly.
Then again, yeah, my parents were like, don't do it, quarantine. So I dropped the whole thing. But then that's my idea. I can't stop creating no matter what. For me, it's always about creating stuff. That's where like people do weed and stuff to get high. My high is always creating.
Yep.
Same here.
Literally, I get it. Yeah. And it's amazing to have the opportunity to do so. So that's great.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for being a part of the Visionary Stories podcast. It means a lot to me because, conversations like these, I don't get it from people because some people find it cringe and some people find it very weird. So that's why I started the podcast, to have like deep, meaningful conversations and to learn something from someone I didn't even know properly. So thank you for coming to the show. And it really
thank you.
Thank you.
And you should join our discussion sometime.
Funny story. I came to know about you guys from a friend, and I was on my way to one of your Inspirational Hangouts. It was back in June last year. And I couldn't make it because I had to go somewhere. I had to go out with my family somewhere. And that's why I didn't come. Otherwise, I would have actually showed up and talk. I mean, had the whole, can we do the podcast thing in person?
Well, I'm glad we were still able to do it. Thank you for...
how things
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been really nice.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you.
All right, of course.